Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
So I want to talk about this thing, Melissa, but I don't want to sound like a total jerk. But
come on, sound like a jerk. It'll make it fun.
So I had lunch with someone who I've known for 25 years, like a long time, since he was in 7th grade.
Oh,
okay. Right. So, I'm gonna tell you some insights. So you're gonna guess who it is, and we can use his name because I'll tell him.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
But okay, so I've known him a really long time.
Risky.
He used to work for me at Tightrope.
Okay.
Then he left on like pretty good terms to go do his own thing. Mm-hmm. And I sold him one of the products that we had discontinued.
Oh yeah.
You know who it is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember this.
Brandon.
Guy. Yeah.
All right. So Brandon and I get together. Like we used to work together. I mean, we worked together for like 15 years, right? And like I said, I had known him since he was in 7th grade. And the reason I knew him when he was in 7th grade was because when I was in college, in high school and college, I was working at that TV station.
Yeah.
He was one of the volunteers.
Oh, I never knew that, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so he was one of the young kid volunteers. Kid, because I was also a kid, like not that much younger than me.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're making it sound like you're like 106, but
hey, when you're when you're 17 and you're and you got like 14 years around, it's a big difference.
Huge difference. So much more mature.
Well, so as our relationship has progressed for a long time, like we've worked together, and then we kind of parted ways from a work perspective. Well, I just kept in touch, right?
Yeah.
Well, I had lunch with them last week, and we do that like maybe once a quarter or something.
I didn't know you still did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just like to get together with him because like he's my friend, right? Mm-hmm. Like at this point, we're like, I feel like we're more like buddies than anything else because we're not work colleagues anymore.
Yeah.
And last week is good as like the normal how you doing, what's going on, and Brandon went into just was asking me tons of questions about like what he should do with his business, how he's positioning his product. It is like really getting into, and I'm totally happy to help him in that way. Mm-hmm. But I was not going into that lunch with the mindset that it was just going to be like that kind of lunch. I thought we were just going to like talk about whatever, like nerdy stuff and how our families are doing and like that. And I was actually, I feel bad about this, but I was actually complaining to one of my other friends. I was like, I went to lunch with him and all we did was talk about his business. And he goes, well, JJ, like, because you're his mentor.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
I didn't. And it was the first time where I actually realized like, oh, wait, no, I have been probably since he was in 7th grade, maybe playing this mentorship role. Mm-hmm. And probably when I was younger working at the TV station, I probably really was. I think I was more conscious that I was playing that role.
Sure.
Then actually I like more viewed him as a peer for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of moved him into the friend category.
Yeah.
He might have stayed in the mentee category the entire time, and I actually didn't realize it. So then I was really feeling bad, like, oh, well, I'm not really doing justice to Brandon by like not like kind of being there for the way he wants me to be there for him. You know, I'm not saying I'm judging myself in that way, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I totally know what you mean.
And then so it really got me thinking about like mentor relationships, friend relationships, and like how you draw those boundaries and how you set those expectations for the kind of relationships you might have. And maybe the ebb and flow, like I was explaining here, like maybe it changes over time.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this topic today because I think we are all, there are many, many relationships in our lives where we are a mentor or we are a mentee. And I think that a lot of times they're very helpful and other times there's a lot of pressure. And I think that we mentor people and we get mentored in all sorts of ways that are not like just the common work ways. And I think the reason I think it's such an important topic, especially right now, is I think that people are more fragile than normal. I think people are more afraid than usual, just with everything that's going on in the world. And I feel like when people become more afraid, they become more sensitive. And when they become more sensitive, they seek things that make them feel safe. And that happens in your personal life. It happens in your work life. You know, it happens kind of all over the place. And I don't think we even naturally recognize it. I think it's more of a subconscious reach.
So tell me, before we totally get right into some of that, like you went deep all right away. I'm like, wait, what?
Well, you know me.
Ugh.
No idle chit chat.
Well, when we use the word mentor, it is in the work environment. It's like a very specific thing. It's usually to me like a younger person seeking the guidance of a more experienced person to help guide them through their career. Now, I think there are situations where you apply that to your personal life. Like I might have an older friend who's gone through lots of other experience who is my mentor.
Yeah.
Where's the line of being a mentor or just being bossy and telling people what to do?
Well, some people want that. Some people ask you to be that when you don't want to be that. But I have an interesting comment. That whole thing that you just said, what you just said is mentorship happens when somebody's older than somebody else. You had a real...
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
It was like an experience level thing.
Yeah. Well, but actually it doesn't even have to be that. I think like that's one of the sneaky mentor places. Like that's a sneaky mentee mentor relationship right there is if you're peer to peer exactly the same age. Or what if somebody's younger than you in the workplace and you're seeking to understand something or understand a particular part of your job or something that's changing in the market or a different perspective, and somebody that's 10, 15 years younger than you might be spot on and have absolutely all the knowledge about that. And isn't that interesting though?
Yeah, no one likes that situation.
I don't know about that. Oh my gosh.
You're like, oh, those young whippersnappers are so smart.
Oh my gosh. But I think too, like, you know, how many times do you get tapped to be a mentor because of a title?
Yeah.
Or because of your age?
Yeah.
Or because of your expertise?
Or perceived one
totally.
of those.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So what you're exploring is this idea that the default is you're seeking mentorship from someone who you perceive to be, I don't know, more experienced, wiser, something. Society kind of paints that as an older person. Yeah, there's lots to be gained from a whole variety of different perspectives.
Yes. Yeah. You know, one of the things that I'm doing right now is I've developed this really fun, I'm just having so much fun with this project. It's a leadership academy for several companies that fall under an umbrella. And one of the things that we've been exploring this last quarter is our own levels of leadership. It's a John Maxwell thing. It's really cool, the 5 levels of leadership. And in that is a concept that talks about what do you have to give? And it just brings you into a whole different flavor of mentorship that I think is so meaningful and so much more real than how some people would just, like throw up the sign about what is it to be a mentor. Like, oh, you should mentor this and you should. But it's really interesting when you start looking at it from a skill perspective as opposed to an age or an experience perspective. It's fascinating to see what's there. And it's fascinating to see who emerges in those opportunities, of professional skill. Say, for example.
So, like, there's certainly like like in the work environment, there is value in finding a mentor.
Yes, absolutely.
Like lots of value in finding a mentor.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I'd go so far as to say, don't not have a mentor or 2 or 3 or 4.
Like, go find some mentors.
Immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
In that environment, seeking out a mentor and like finding someone who maybe you look up to and you want to learn from, how would you approach asking them to be your mentor?
Oh, that's such a good question, because herein lies the problem with the description that you just gave with you and Brandon. This is where that issue, where it starts to not be so smooth, where there's a couple bumps in there, because you both had assumptions about what your relationship was. And if he's considering you as his mentor, as he always has, he never really asked you permission. He never really asked you for, this is what I really could use your guidance on. He didn't give you any fence posts to follow. So that, if that's like a number one thing I would say is for people that are looking for mentors, or they in the professional environment, or they have a mentor in a professional environment, it's really the mentee's responsibility to outline what it is that they want help with. Even if it's ambiguous and they aren't exactly sure, they should probably have some idea.
And set the expectation for the relationship, right?
100%.
Like, hey, I want this kind of thing I want to be a mentee. I want to learn from you, and this is what I want from our relationship.
Yep, exactly. And I've had several mentors in my life, and I still have mentors. I'm always looking for new mentors. And I mean, some of my clients are my mentors in totally different ways, And if I am seeking to understand their perspective more, I will ask permission. I would love to get your perspective on this. I'd love to learn from you about this. And it makes it such a better relationship between the two sides. If a mentor knows what's expected of them. Because I think a lot of people go into looking for mentors with the expectation that it's the mentor's job to tell them what they should know. It's the mentor's job to outline, right? It's the mentor's responsibility there. That's the better word. It's the mentor's responsibility to manage the relationship.
And when the frame around the mentor is that they are the more experienced expert in something. So you can see how that's an easy assumption to say.
Absolutely.
Also, they will define the relationship and the boundaries of the relationship.
Exactly.
But what you're saying is it's more appropriate for the mentee to define the boundaries of the relationship and really define what they are asking of the mentor.
Yeah, even if it's like the short term versus the long term approach. Like even a mentee might say, this is where I'm at right now, and I'd love to get your guidance about this specific thing. And maybe that mentor could give the guidance for the next 5-year runway about what this person should do, but that's really probably not necessary, warranted, and wouldn't actually be very helpful. Whereas maybe if the mentee could communicate really clearly about where they are, the mentor can then fill in the spackle, right? Like where the gaps and holes are. It's like, oh, okay, this is where they are. I remember I can be with this person here. And this is probably what are some of the things I'd be thinking about if I were them. And it just creates so much more space for creative growth together. And I think that becomes a very meaningful relationship when someone is being asked to mentor specifically and being told where this mentee is and why the mentee thinks that this mentor is such a valuable resource for them right now or in perpetuity,
Yeah, so you said like a valuable relationship for the both of them. Tell me about how being a mentor is valuable for the mentor.
I think there's a number, and this is just from my own lens, so I'm not I'm not being, I don't think this is the answer for everybody, but I do think there's a couple of key things that happen. When you're allowed to be a mentor, first of all, it feels really good to be able to help. I've seen a lot of people in professional environments, even high-level people, that when they're in a bad spot, they want to shut themselves off and not share that they're in a bad spot. Whereas if they can reach out to somebody that is a mentor person and just say, I'm really struggling, I need help. That feels so validating for someone to be asked to mentor that person, especially if it's done in respect and with sort of some of the parameters that I was talking about. And the other thing I think it does is when you are asked to be a mentor or you are a mentor, giving back your time, giving of yourself, sharing to the collective is a very valuable experience to also validate what you know, not just how you feel, but it feels really good to be able to take something that you have, transfer it to several other people and watch something grow, as a result. I think that's very validating, and it feels really good to do that too. And it just puts you in connection with people in a much more intimate way than you normally would.
The benefit I've found in being a mentor is that it really helps me get better at solving problems. Right? Like someone else brings a whole new fun
that's
flavor
good.
of problem set that I don't have to deal with on a daily basis. So it's fun to work through those things together with someone else.
Yes.
It's like co-creation a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Do you know what I just remembered? Do you remember that time when we were in our co-working space and I was running strategic planning for a company and they were trying to come up with their mission statement and we were really stuck. They were really stuck. I was facilitating them. And I saw you walk by and because that is one of the things you're really good at. That's a place that you've mentored a lot of people is right in that place, trying to figure out the strategic vision for a particular group. Right. And I remember grabbing you by the shirt and pulled you in there. And you normally now, had I caught you flat footed, that wouldn't have been a good thing because I didn't ask your permission. I just threw you in front of these people and I said, hey, here's my partner, JJ. Hey, JJ, why don't you work with? And you were on fire. Do you remember that?
Yes. You pulled me in like it's like a party trick. Hey, look at this random guy that I just pulled in is gonna in 8 minutes tell you why your company exists. And we did.
And we did. I've never seen this man before in my life. Now, that situation, I was asking you to mentor in a way that you weren't expecting. I didn't ask your permission, but we had mutual trust between the two of us.
Yeah.
And it was fun because I knew that was one of your strengths and we had that mutual trust. Now, had I done that with somebody that I didn't have that level of connection or relationship with, and because I knew that was something that they were good at, but I didn't ask them permission or I put them on the spot, which mentees will do to mentors, and they think that it's okay to do that. That is not an okay thing to do because it puts the mentor off, you know. So there really is something the first thing that has to happen with any mentor relationship is connection. And that is on both sides, but led firstly from the mentee's perspective. Brandon, all well-intended, really should have said, I would love to meet with you. I have a bunch of stuff I'm trying to work through, and I could really use your thoughts. He should have said that because that would have given you a chance to think it through. Yeah, instead of getting caught flat-footed, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so but I think understanding that whole relationship of mentor-mentee. Now, I'll tell you, on the flip side of this, because of I don't know if it's because of my title or because I've had my company for 20 years. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But on occasion, I will have people that make assumptions about me without knowing me. And I don't like that.
Like assumptions that you can just be their professional coach as at any point in time.
Or just give free advice.
Just free advice, yeah.
Or they can start calling me buddies or calling me mentors when they don't really know me. They can start I don't like that. I don't like that because it is a level of intimacy that I do not share. That level of intimacy must be earned. and professionally as well, very
Yeah.
much so professionally. And so, there is a little nuance here about how to build a strong mentor-mentee relationship.
The we've been talking about kind of the work context.
Yeah.
And I think whether people have that kind of formally in their work or informally in their work, it just kind of clearly happens. And when you talk about work mentors, like it's not, it's a pretty, I'd say, agreeable thing. Like it was like, oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I've had that. In the personal relationships, like talking about having a mentor, isn't nearly as common.
No, I know it.
I mean, at least in the circles that I run in, no one's running around like, oh, I met with my mentor today. Like, we talked about life, but maybe you have a different experience.
Some I do, yeah. But that's, I think, again, because of the role I play professionally. I am in different kinds of relationships than I think the average bear is. It's not good or bad. It just is. But you're right. I don't think personally we are nearly as cognizant of who it is that we really value because of their own particular skill or personal skill that they bring to the table. I totally agree with you. John Maxwell calls it life skill. Like, what life skills do you have to give to others, and what life skills do you seek from others? And he uses great examples. He's like, hey, if you're struggling in your marriage, you're probably not going to go and find somebody who's been divorced 6 times and ask him advice on how to fix it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You just aren't going to, but you will naturally think of couples that have been around longer or that you could try. And that would be someplace that you would more personally and quietly lean on or towards in hopes of getting some mentorship. I think there's a whole bunch of them in personal.
There was a Seinfeld episode about mentors and mentees. Do you remember this?
No.
It was it was awesome because like Jerry was dating this woman who had a mentor, and at first he's like, "Wow, that's like really cool. Like she's really trying to level up." And it turns out the mentor was, I think his name was Banyan, who's like a knucklehead, like hack comedian. So then Jerry lost like all respect for her.
Oh, that guy was absolutely a genius, being able to take the simplest, weirdest little thing and turn it into a whole big thing.
It was the first time I ever heard like really someone might be a mentee personally. Like,
I don't know.
I think it was great. I think it was really funny.
Okay, let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
Like, think about your personal history. When have you leaned on someone in your personal life? Because you do all the time when you're learning something new. You do. I could give you I'm not going to say, but I could list 5 times that you have been seeking personal mentors. So, like, what's an example of something that you have used when you've used a personal mentor of some sort?
Let's see. That's now you're putting me on the spot. I don't like that.
I don't like that. Well, you want me to give you?
Well, yeah. Why don't you fill it in for me?
I'll give you a little underhanded throw. How about that?
Nice, yeah.
How about when you were going to go to the Boundary Waters for the first time?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's an easy. Okay, I was thinking like something way more complicated.
No,
what a
it doesn't
beautiful,
have to
easy
be.
example, Melissa.
You're welcome.
Thanks for putting it on the T-ball stand for me. Yes, so I had never been to the Boundary Waters. I wanted to go to the Boundary Waters, and my friend Eric kind of offered to help kind of facilitate and guide my first Boundary Waters trip.
Yep.
So he helped like with what I needed to pack, what my expectations were.
Yeah.
Ethan and I went with him. So yeah, he was a really wonderful guide and Boundary Waters mentor for that experience.
Yeah. See,
Yep.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, I think we have so many people that we lean on and that we seek guidance from that we don't even have a conscious awareness about. And I think it happens every dang day, to be honest.
So what you said there, that idea, that example is a great example, because like what I was going to was like, okay, what giant, huge dramatic thing happened in my life where I needed like steady mentor to guide me through the wreckage.
For life.
Right? But it doesn't have to be that, right? It can be something as simple as, I want to go do a new experience. I want to learn a new thing.
Totally.
And that mentee-mentor relationship might only exist in the time span of a weekend. Not
exactly.
It doesn't have to be a time span of many years.
No.
Yeah.
And if you look at the example that we use, we're talking about Eric, who is one of your guys on your leadership team. Mm-hmm. So now in the professional life, he's not someone that you would naturally think of as a mentor for you, right? But here in this pocket of his personal life and your personal life, he was a huge mentor. So that's what I mean. I think there's and it doesn't have to do with age or anything else like that. It's just like that's something that he's done a lot more of, so you could lean on him. Yeah. I think about when I first moved into my first house, we had no gardens. And I had a master gardener that lived on one side of me and a master gardener that lived on the other. And I was so terrified to try to figure out, how do I start a garden? And I just love it. I just went in, and she was kind of a little salty, this one neighbor. And she's like, well, you just start sticking stuff in the ground, Melissa, and some of it'll grow and some of it'll die, and you'll learn what you can put in there next year. She didn't have the same level of intensity that I did to cultivate this beautiful. Right. But she was a great teacher for me because she really did just explore and have fun. She knew some of the basics, which she was happy to share. But it was just like, you don't have to get so serious. Just have a little fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was mentoring for me because I never thought of that.
Yeah. Perfect. Let me ask you this. What if, I'm not saying this is in my example, but I was just wondering, is what if you don't want to be in a mentoring relationship? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you, if you're the mentor side of it, you're like, ugh, I just really don't feel I have the time, the energy,
or the connection.
The connection. How would you kind of break that to somebody?
Yeah, I actually just did this a couple weeks ago. I had somebody that was kind of tapping me a lot, and I don't really know or trust them because I don't have a long history. And sort of this level of automatic connection was assumed, and I wasn't comfortable with it. And I just said, I'm sorry, I'm really not comfortable being able to do that for you. And my time does not allow me to do that for you right now. And that's actually what I said. It's hard. You know what though? I felt a lot better. I felt a lot better being honest and just like kind of getting right to the source of it.
How long did you sit with that before you?
The third request. They asked 3 times.
So it was like weighing on you a little bit.
It was totally. Because the first time I was like, this person doesn't know me. Mm-hmm. I do not like this natural, we're such buddies. No, I don't know. We don't know each other. So I did feel it. And then the second time I just sort of avoided it, thinking maybe there would be okay, she's not responding. And then the third time I was like, nope, I gotta shut this down. Mm-hmm. I felt a lot better after I did. And I did it in a way that was respectful and honest. Like I won't not tell I won't make up a story. It's way easier to just be honest. So I just don't feel that I'm able to do that. Yep. Yeah. That's hard though. Sometimes, especially, sometimes don't want to do that. It's just easier to make up something.
Yeah.
I can't. I got to go brush the dog's teeth right now. I'm so sorry.
Well, cool. This is good. When kind of like on the opposite side of that, when asking someone, when reaching out as a mentee and asking a mentor to help, what do you have advice around? Like, because to me that, like, kind of some of these examples, like real easy ones, like the boundary water one, pretty easy. But sometimes when you ask someone for help or their guidance, it feels a little vulnerable. It's a little scary to do that.
I think it's really vulnerable, but I think that makes it more approachable for the mentor as well. Mm-hmm. I think that, to me, it would be a couple of things. Like, I think state what it is that you actually want from the person, and then state what you think that looks like. In other words, let's say you're having a relationship problem, and there's someone that you really value about how they manage relationships. You could contact that person and say, you're just somebody I respect. I think that's the first thing, is to honor the person. You're someone that I respect, And I would really love to have a conversation with you. If I could buy you coffee or lunch or something, I'd really like to talk with you about relationships. And just get your take on it, because I think that you're somebody who is just naturally really gifted with how you manage your relationships. And I just really like to talk with you about that. So you can state specifically what it is that you want and the time frame that you want. You're not asking this person to meet with you once a week for the next 8 years.
Right.
You just want to have an open dialogue, and then perhaps they might say, "Hey, it's been good to talk with you. We should reconnect in a month." And then allow that mentor to be the next catalyst for another conversation, should there be the necessity for that.
Yeah.
So I would ask permission, and I would be clear about what you'd like.
Yep. Perfect. Melissa, will you be my mentor until you die?
Only if you'll be mine until you die. But I'll probably go first.
Expectations to be clear here.
I just think the world needs to be more vulnerable with the people that we care and know and love. It's just, I think it's really hard right now. And I think the more we can be that way, the more we can feel better being in partnership and in connection with others.
And there's so much experience that other people have, and being able to share that and learn from that
totally
will just make the world a better place.
Yeah, and you know what? You always feel better after doing it. You always feel better after doing it.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.